Empire Black and White, where we discuss social issues. Today, what does it take to have a man graduate from being a boy to being a man? My guests this morning sit closer to me. I have Pastor Simon Bavey. He is also the founder, executive director of Transform Nations. On my far left, I have Suzanne May. She is the dean of students at Kipps Technical College. It's so good to have both of you over here. Pastor Simon, let me begin with you. How do we define who a man is?
Well, that's a very good question. There's a lot that we could say. Mwanaume wallet, jasho na mambo kama haya. But I think for me, a boy, how I could differentiate. A boy is someone that I see as chaotic. You know, boys are generally very chaotic. They're trying to do stuff. They have a lot of energy. They don't have a structure on how to bring it out. So I should say boys are chaotic and curious. They want to learn. So they are up to something. They want to learn. I'll never forget when my son, one day, I went home and I found he had put a chapati inside the DVD player. Just chaotic. I asked him, what are you trying to do? He said, well, I'm trying to see whether this thing could play. It looks like a big DVD. Curious. So how a boy graduates into a man is, to me, two things. Responsibility. Becomes responsible for his own life, for relationships around himself, the environment that he is in, responsible. And number two, he brings order into his life. Whether it's how he handles his phone, how he handles other relationships, there's order, his finances. So order and responsibility to me is a summary of how a boy turns into a man. Wow,
order and responsibility.
Yeah.
Suzanne May, do you feel as if the men of our generation fit that description by Pastor Simon?
Thank you so much and good morning. I like the definition. And to me, a boy, let a boy be. Boys must be boys. But for men, they are the mentors for these boys. And so whatever they do, they should know that they're mentoring these boys. So for them, we look unto them because they are supposed to mentor us as the small boys. Yes.
Do you believe that I want to say the lack of a father figure within our African families has contributed to the outcome of the men that we're seeing in this generation? Suzanne May, I'll start with you.
Yes. And it's so unfortunate in our society that we don't have the men that we would like to have, simply because these boys, when they grow up, they want to see a man who is going to help them, to nurture them, to mentor them into to become a parent, to become a man, to become a responsible man. But it's unfortunate that nowadays it does not happen, and we are going to work together as a team so that we make our men responsible for these young boys.
Right.
Yes.
Pastor Simon, your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's true. I really believe masculinity in any generation is predicted upon the quality of the fathers in that generation. For this reason, fathers are the model of masculinity. When a son is brought into a family, then they'll look up to the father in that home, if he's present, to see what kind of a man they should be. My boy is always telling me, Dad, I want to be like you. I want to do the stuff you're doing. Because to him, I'm the man. That's what he grew up seeing. That's who he sees. So I'm the cool man that he wants to be.
The cool man.
Now, if I am not there, then he is left to wonder. And unfortunately, the majority of Kenyans, according to a study we did some while ago, are either unfathered without a father, underfathered with very little dad, because dad shows up and disappears, busy with work. There's a friend of mine who recently told me, hey, Nkubaya, I need to do something. He said, I came home and my son ran towards me and said, oh, uncle has come to visit us. He's so rare at home that the kids now think he's an uncle. But underfathered, a lot of Kenyans, a lot of people are like that. And lastly is misfathered. They just have a bad dad, either bad behavior or violent or just something else. So the majority of people are like that. Now, when boys grew up without that model, good model of masculinity, then something breaks. because dads are supposed to pass on the baton of masculinity to the next generation. And yes, mentorship could happen for these boys without a father, but the best person naturally to relate to their son and show what it means to be a man is a dad.
And what does it mean to have a father who is present? And I say present because you can still have a father who is around, but is not present in a boy's life.
That's true.
What does present look like?
Well, present to me is involved and approachable. Involved in terms of they're doing homework together, they're doing something. He's not just there. Because you could be passively there. You're just watching Manu versus Arsenal and things like that. You're watching things, you're in the home, but you're not even involved in the kid's life. You don't even know what's going on. So involved, asking them the questions, connecting with them, having dates with them, taking them out, checking on their education. But number two, approachable. You know how, probably it's my generation, not yours, but we had these fathers who would be home, but you wouldn't approach them. Oh, yeah. Just if you know what's good for you, you don't come near, because you could be slapped just for looking. What are you looking at? For no good reason. And so approachable means you're inviting, that the children will run towards you, not run away from you. Then you will have the connection. You'll be able to connect with the kids. So to me, present is very important. I was very excited, actually, this last Saturday. We're graduating our first class of intentional dads. And what we were saying is, as we go home, we want to be intentional. Not just sitting there, but intentional in how we connect with the kids. To me, that's what being present is. You're intentional, you're connected, you're involved, you're thinking through your parenting. Wow. It's not by mistake.
Wow. Suzanne May, now that you get to relate with students day in, day out as the Dean of Students at Kipps College, do you feel as if, because I'm sure they talk to you during social conversations,
yes,
do they feel as if their own parents, especially the boys, the men, young men, do they feel as if their fathers are present in their lives? And has that affected how they socialize and their performance in school and how they view manhood?
Thank you so much. Yes, it does. Unfortunately, in our society, we work with a small child very, very well. You see the way we bring them up when they're young, we work with them, we go to church with them. But at the age of 10, they kind of disappear from our lives. They now look for a man who will work with them. Because sometimes they get bored with going with mom every day and all that. Now, when they look for dad, dad is not there. Unfortunately, in our setup, very few men will go to church. Some of them are in the house and all that. So this boy child starts now losing focus. Because who is this person that he's supposed to work with? It happens because even when they come to school, they don't know what exactly they want to do. You try to talk to them about the career, they don't know. But I don't blame them. Many of the times, a parent will come to school and they'll check whether their son is there. And even the approach, they'll come to my office and be like, I've come to look for so-and-so. And I'm like, he's your son, kind of. We are to that level.
Right.
Whereby they don't want to be associated with this boy simply because the boy misbehaved. But I keep on asking the question, where were you when the boy was misbehaving? Where were you when this boy was choosing this career? If you worked with this boy as a father, you could have mentored this boy to the right career so that they continue with the course and to the end of it. Most of these boys are dropping school because they don't have a mentor. They start a course, it is not what they wanted, there was no one to guide them in the family, and then they just drop.
Right.
Yes.
In fact, just to add something there, on a light note, you sure in African culture, if a child does well, the father's child. If you do badly, it's a mother. So I guess that's where those parents are coming from. That the dad doesn't want to identify with the child when they fail. I think you remember, our fathers used to be number one. I always wonder who was number two. They'd always say, make sure you're number one when you go to school, because I was always number one. But they want to paint this picture that they're victorious. And a lot of times fathers take off when there's failure. And unfortunately, there's such a father hunger in our nation. Just a reaching out for a dad, that kids would almost sometimes do crazy things to get the attention of the fathers in their lives. Either look for them out there. I'll just give you one quick example. But I was talking to this young man from one of the schools in Nairobi. And he had been sent home suspended for being found with some drugs, which he placed on top of his table in school. I think he wanted to be caught, as he told me. And I asked him, son, why are you doing this? And what he was saying is, you know, I just wanted to get the attention of my dad. My dad doesn't talk to me, doesn't know what's going on in school, so I said, let me do something really stupid so that dad will get mad with me, and as he punishes me, at least we're going to have a conversation. So I asked him, did you succeed? He said, unfortunately, no. Because when I took the letter of suspension to dad, he looked at it, read it, and then called my mom and said, deal with your stupid boy.
No.
And the son said, I gave up. You know, I live as if my dad is not there, because I was doing all of that to try and get his attention, to try and let him know, Dad, I need you to get involved. So I think it's very important for fathers to be intentional.
Pastor Simon Baby, why is it that when things get tough, the father or the male figure in this example runs away or looks the other side? Why does that happen? But like you said, when something good, they then appear. Why?
Yeah, because of course men like honor. We love respect. So when things go well, then it's honor. When things go bad, we're not very confrontational in terms of relational. They say women are naturally relational. They'll connect to children. They'll be able to ask some questions. Men have to learn that. Have to learn to connect with children, relate to them, and then build the relationship enough to ask the right questions. So a lot of men find it very awkward. A friend of mine was telling me that last year he had the longest, travel with his dad from here to Nakuru. Because they sat in the car and they didn't know what to say.
Oh, my goodness.
So he just said, how you doing? I said, yeah, good. And then they started listening to music in the car. When they got to somewhere in Nakuru, in Naivasha, said, do you want some yogurt? Went and got some yogurt. That's it. That's all they said.
Can those relationships be fixed? Even at that age, it's not too late?
It's not too late. One of the guys who graduated out of our intentional dad on Saturday was actually 75 or thereabouts.
Right.
And he was saying, well, I have learned so much, and I began to reach out to actually my children, and we're beginning to talk, because now I understand how to talk and how to connect. So yes, I believe we can learn. If we can get to learn how to reconnect with our children, it's never too late. So,
Suzanne May, here's the thing. I feel that we as a society put so much pressure on young men today.
Yes.
You find probably a boy who is 13 is the one who is the father figure in his own family. Whether or not the father is present or absent, he's required to behave in a certain way. He's a boy and is also expected to be the man of the house. That sort of pressure that we put on young men, on boys, how does that affect how they transition from being a boy to being a man?
Okay. That pressure is good, because it helps the boy child to build up the being responsible. Unfortunately, when it is not mentored well, it cannot work.
Right.
And that's why we say, walk with a boy. Be afraid to this boy child, even if they are old. Let us not see that this boy is that 5 years, or this man is that 5 years. So as a father, I cannot talk to him. Let us walk with them, because they have got issues. And the good thing with having a father figure is that you are open. You'll be able to talk to your father. You can call your daddy anytime. It is so sad when our boys graduate from being boys to men, and they're still behaving like us women, because they have learned a lot from us when we are raising them up. So we need the fathers to come and take it up. Immediately the boy is 9 or 8 years. From 8 years, the man now should come in and play up the father figure.
But here's the thing. Do you think our cultural norms, what we normally say, especially to a boy, don't show your feelings, you can't cry, be tough, do you think that affects how a boy grows into a man? Because then a lot of them end up buckling a lot of the emotions, and then they don't know how to express it.
Yes.
And then they turn to perhaps physical violence if they're in a relationship, or drugs and abuse, because growing up they had boys don't cry, be tough, because of those cultural norms.
Unfortunately, that actually messed the boy child that we have today. Most of these fathers that we have, especially from our age, they were told men don't cry, they were told to behave like a boy, and so they grew up knowing that they are men. They're not supposed to cry, they're not supposed to show up their emotions, but the fact remains they're emotional, isn't it? And so they were not given any chance to do that. So when now we give them sons to father, how will they father and them they were not fathered? No, they have a pressure already which is piled on them, and so it is not actually their fault. Actually, I don't blame them. I blame their fathers because they didn't show them, they didn't father them.
The right way to deliver your emotions.
And so here, we want our sons to be fathered by these people like the way we expect them to be fathered. It cannot work.
Pastor Simon, baby, you seem to be agreeing nodding in agreement?
No, I'm agreeing by and large. But on a light note, what you said earlier, there was this boy who was taught, you know, a dad is, I think they were being taught about dads. A dad is strong, a dad is going to be there for you, a dad will show up for your school functions, all of that. And then the boy said, all right, when I grow up, I want to be a man like my mom.
Yes, I saw that.
Because then that's the kind of person that she gets to see. So when the men are not there, then boys aspire to be like their moms. But talking about toughness and all of that, culturally, I think it was well-intentioned but ill-advised. They wanted to strengthen these boys, not to be weak. But in the process, then they denied them the ability to feel. I teach ladies as well in our Mothers of Sons program. One of the things I say, mothers are best placed in those first 8 years to actually help us understand our emotions. Because men generally are not very emotive. They actually have to be taught to understand. Remember when I got married, I would go home feeling something. I'll sit my wife down and say, this is what I'm feeling. Explain in many words. And she'll say, you're just sad. What? That's what it is. Because nobody taught me emotions. And mothers have to do that for their boys and help them name the emotions and understand how to deal with them. Fathers should not suppress them. I think it's a myth that big boys don't cry. They should cry because emotions are appointed to something happening deep. They shouldn't be considered weak because of showing emotions. So I think we need to debunk some of those myths in the culture. But at the same time, we need to encourage the boys to be strong as well. Because as psychologists say, between 0 and 8, it's a mother's territory, really. Men are there and present. They connect. They play with the kid. But it's really the kids, when something happens, they run to mom. Because they're the first line of defense from the relationship in the womb. But then from 8, it begins to shift. And I saw it for my kids. When now, my voice was a lot more important. Between 8 and 14, 15, before peers step in and become the most important voice, the voice of a father is the one that calls out the woman in a girl and the man in a boy. And when that voice is not there to affirm the feelings of this boy, but still call him to strength and call the girl to confidence as well, then things don't go well. So, yes, fathers play an important role in being able to affirm the feelings, but also strengthen the boy to be what they should be.
Pastor Simon, baby, is there a right way? Is there a rule book of how to transition from being a boy to being a man? Because that's an entire journey that one has to take.
It's a journey. In fact, this year I'm taking my boy through rites of passage the whole year. And there are many churches and organizations doing rites of passage this year. And there are a few things that must be learned. If I will talk about the 6 building blocks, but we may not have the time to talk about that. But we say these are things you need to prepare your boy in this journey. This begins around 13, goes all the way to 18. Adulting is not easy. And it's really training them. In fact, incidentally, our program is called Boys to Men. But preparing the boys to become men. It's a relationship issue, but 3 of the very important blocks you need to give the boy to grow up, to be a man. Number 1 is responsibility. I talked about that. Teaching them how to be responsible for themselves and for the environment around them. How to put up, make sure their room is made up and all of that. Simple things. But number 2 is reality. Teaching them reality. Bad things happen, and it's not the end of life. You fail exams once in a while, and that's okay. That's an adulting thing. Accepting reality, dealing with it, getting the best out of it, and moving on. I think lastly is relationship. How to relate differently. with people, how to honor authority, how to treat girls well, how to treat your mother, how to treat different people, but just relating well in the community to fit in, realizing that you don't live in an island.
Okay, Suzanne May, earlier on you talked about the boy child.
Yes.
In this process of a boy becoming a man, we've also seen the empowerment of the girl child. Kudos to society for that. But is it at the expense of the boy child? And that then goes to affect, or is it a result of now the sort of men that we have in our generation?
We have got too much empowerment of the girl child. But why is it too much? It is because the people that are there to receive this empowerment, they are there. Women are very good in making something small to become very big. Give a woman a seed, they'll give you a child. And so when they are given something small, they are able to grow it and make it big.
Right.
The same responsibility has to be done to the boy child. The government is trying a lot, and it is doing its best. The problem that we have is when we give a boy something small, they don't have the potential to make it big because they lack mentors, as we had said. I visited Madare slums last week, and I like visiting slums because I really like touching the boy child in the slum area. Because if there's a place that we need to go and preach this gospel of being a man, it is in the slum. Because what happens with this boy child, the mother is there, most of them, they are struggling to earn a living. And you see this boy child is watching. And if there's something that these men don't want to see when they are small, is their mother struggling. And so what they do, they grow up with that bitterness. Where is this father? If I know my father, I will kill him. And believe you me, when they're exposed to these guns, they kill these men.
Right.
Because they are so bitter with men. And that is why they keep on shooting men and all that. Because that bitterness that they see their mother struggling, it is too much for a boy child. And that messes with this boy when they grow big. Then when they become a man, they grow up being bitter.
Right. A friend told me we've empowered the girl child so much, and kudos for that, again, as society. But now this woman grows up and then she has there's no one to marry. There's no one who is of the same level as her to then get married.
Exactly. I'm in school, and one of the things I can tell you is that ladies are in school. It doesn't matter the type of jobs they have, the money that they have, but the fact remains they're going back to school. And you know what happens? The boy child waits for them, taking 2 or 3 beers, waiting for this girl to finish classes, then they take them home. What are you doing as a boy child? You are messing with their life because you're empowering your wife more than you are. And this is a danger that you are posing to your society and also to your own family and also to yourself as a man.
All right, Pastor Simon, maybe take us through perhaps the importance, and we began by describing who a man is, and that's fantastic, but take us through the importance of identity crisis as a boy or as a young man who's transitioning to being a man. If you do not know yourself, if you do not know what you stand for, if you do not know the ideologies that you stand for, how then that goes to correlate with the sort of man you become?
Well, that's good. Maybe I could pick up something here.
Sure.
I really believe we need to empower the girl child. I don't think we're there yet. But I think we have focused so much on it that we assumed the boy did not need help. And I think statistics are beginning to show that the boy is probably in a very bad place right now. I was talking to a lecturer who was telling me, I don't know what to do about my class because 85% for the last 2 years of my students have been female. This is engineering and MBA. Now you can imagine, those used to be tasks for men a while ago. So there's a concern that we are not doing something. And I'm glad that some of us are beginning to step in and say we need a connection. In fact, you'll be excited to know that we're launching something next year in partnership with many others, and I'm sure we'll partner as well, to train in the next 3 years 1 million fathers in Kenya. Because I believe we can get 1 million fathers intentionally involved with their children and the children around them. I believe the societal landscape in Kenya will change. And going on to what you asked, how do we prepare this boy? You know, what are some of the things we need to do around identity? I would say identity is very important. And one of the things about boys is when they lose confidence. A boy is born always asking, do I have what it takes? Am I man enough? That's a question every boy asks growing up. Do I have a chest that fits in among my tribes? Can I sit around the table of men? Do I have it? That's a question every boy is asking, sometimes till grave, from cradle to death. and they need a voice that affirms them. That's why fathers create identity a lot for boys by affirming them, by telling them, yeah, you're a man, you've done that well, you will succeed, giving them the confidence, affirming that. But other things that affirm the identity of a boy would be affirming their giftings. If they're not good in academics, then allow them to be good in something else. When a boy or a child generally is good at something, they feel confident about it. Identity is boosted. When identity is not there, then people begin to look for coping mechanisms, for other things, to make them feel man enough, whatever it may be. That's why they get into addictions, into crime, into other things. They're trying to prove a point because they don't feel like they have it.
All right, before I bring Michael into the conversation, because he has 2 sons, and I want to hear his thoughts on this. Suzanne May, because of time, 30 seconds I'll give to both of you as closing comments. Susan?
My closing comments, it's an appeal to all the fathers. As from the beginning, when God created a man, the man needed help. So the fact remains, this boy child needs help. So let us help the boy child to grow, because he can't make it alone.
All right.
Thank you.
Pastor Simon Baby, your closing comments?
I would say let's all work together, mothers, fathers, the media, and everyone, to create good men in our country. Because I always say a country or community is only as safe as the boys in that place. If the boys are not well organized, they don't know what they're doing, they'll pick up guns and they'll steal from us and do all of that. We're only as safe as the quality of our young men. So let's all do something together. Let's make this a safe place.
Pastor Simon Baby over there, the founder and executive director of Transform Nation. Susan May, the dean of students at Kipps Technical College. Michael, you have 2 sons. What stood out for you in this conversation?
Well, the fact that, number one, there's what Pastor Mbevi has mentioned, and that's intentional fathering, because that's something that I think one has to think through and plan. And when I say think through and plan, what I mean is, for instance, I have to create specific time for my boys, literally where we create it, because, I mean, we're living in a very busy world, and if you allow, there are so many things demanding your time. The internet is demanding, your job is demanding, this is demanding, the boys are demanding, and when I say the boys, I mean, you know, with the football clubs and sit down and have a drink and all that. But the question is, your boys are also demanding, but very silently. Now, unless you intentionally make that decision that I will make and create time for them, where even if it means, like Pastor Mbevi was saying, let's drive to Nakuru, if it means we are quiet through the whole journey, let it be. But that obviously speaks to a lot if you have no conversation. So, yeah.
That is such a good answer, Michael. Tea on me today. Clap for yourself. Good. Well done.
Thank you very much. But yeah, interesting conversation. And of course, on Black and White, we're also asking you, what is it that you'd want us to discuss, especially when it comes to the social aspect of things, and would love to hear from you. But for now, time, they say, waits for no man, not even for kings and not even for us here.